Your gut is rotting, not in a dramatic, visible way, slowly, quietly, in a way that most doctors will never tell you about because most doctors were never taught to look. Bloating, brain fog, anxiety that comes from nowhere, food that makes you feel sick even though it never used to. Millions of people are living with these symptoms right now and being told they are fine, but they are not fine. And the strangest part of this story is that the answer to what went wrong might be buried thousands of years in the past. Because ancient humans, people who lived without refrigerators, without antibiotics, without any understanding of what a microbiome even was, may have had gut health that was dramatically, measurably superior to yours. Let's start with what the gut microbiome actually is, because the science here is newer than most people realize. Inside your digestive tract right now there are approximately 38 trillion microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses, archaea. This is not an infection. This is your microbiome, and it is supposed to be there. It has been there since the moment you were born. In fact, it has been with the human species for millions of years, evolving alongside us, shaping our immune systems, regulating our moods, producing vitamins, breaking down food our own cells cannot process, and communicating directly with our brains through what scientists now call the gut-brain axis. The microbiome is not a passenger, it is a partner, and for most of human history it was a thriving, extraordinarily diverse partner. Something has gone very wrong. In 2015, a team of researchers did something remarkable. They extracted gut microbiome samples from ancient human remains, from mummies, from coprolites, which are fossilized feces, from archaeological sites across 3 continents. And then they compared what they found to the gut microbiomes of people living today in industrialized nations. The results were stark. Ancient gut microbiomes were dramatically more diverse. They contained bacterial species that are now either extremely rare or completely absent from the guts of modern Western populations. One key genus, Treponema, was found in virtually every ancient sample and in the guts of people living traditional lifestyles in remote parts of the world today. In industrialized populations, it is nearly gone. Another genus, Prevotella, which plays a critical role in breaking down plant fibers and producing short-chain fatty acids that feed the gut lining, was abundant in ancient samples and scarce in modern ones. Researchers call these missing microbes. Entire bacterial lineages that coexisted with humans for hundreds of thousands of years, performing functions we are only beginning to understand, now vanishing within the span of a few generations. This is not a minor variation. Losing entire genera of gut bacteria is like removing organs from the immune system. The body continues to function but not in the way it was designed to. So what did ancient people actually eat, and how did it shape their microbiomes? The short answer is fiber. An enormous, almost incomprehensible amount of fiber. Hunter-gatherer populations studied today, groups like the Hadza of Tanzania who live in ways closely resembling our prehistoric ancestors, consume between 100 and 150 grams of fiber per day. The average person in a modern industrialized country consumes around 15 grams. The recommended daily intake is 30. Most people don't even reach that. Ancient humans ate tubers, wild roots, seasonal fruits, tough fibrous vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. They ate the whole animal, including organs and connective tissue rich in compounds that feed the gut lining. They ate fermented foods not because they knew fermentation was healthy, but because fermentation was how food survived. Meat kept in animal bladders, berries left to ferment in clay pots, curdled animal milk. These were not superfoods, they were just food, and they were teeming with live bacteria. Fiber is not just roughage, it is fuel. Specifically, it is the fuel that your gut bacteria eat. When diverse species of bacteria break down different types of fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids, compounds like butyrate, propionate, and acetate. Butyrate is the primary energy source for the cells lining your colon. Without it, the gut lining deteriorates, it becomes permeable. Things that should stay inside the gut begin leaking into the bloodstream, triggering chronic low-grade inflammation throughout the body, a condition researchers now refer to as leaky gut syndrome. Ancient humans produced enormous amounts of butyrate because they ate enormous amounts of diverse fiber. Their gut linings were thick, robust, and well-defended. Ours, on average, are not. But diet is only part of the story. Ancient humans lived in constant contact with the microbial world in a way that modern humans simply do not. They slept on the ground, they worked in soil with their bare hands, they drank from rivers and streams, they kept animals, they ate food that had been sitting in the open air. They were born vaginally in environments full of bacteria and immediately came into contact with the microbial communities of their mothers, their families, and the earth itself. Every one of these exposures was seeding their microbiomes, training their immune systems, adding species to the community of bacteria living inside them. Modern humans are born in sterile environments. 30 to 40% of babies in many countries are now delivered by cesarean section, bypassing the vaginal microbiome transfer that has been foundational to immune development for hundreds of thousands of years. Infants are bathed, sanitized, and kept away from soil and animals. Children are given antibiotics at the first sign of infection, sometimes multiple courses per year, each course wiping out not just the pathogenic bacteria but entire communities of beneficial ones. Antibiotics save lives. This is not a debate. But each course of antibiotics causes collateral damage to the microbiome that research shows takes months to recover from, and in some cases never fully recovers at all. Certain bacterial species once lost from the gut do not return without reintroduction. And in a modern environment with limited microbial exposure, reintroduction rarely happens. Ancient children were not treated with antibiotics. They were, however, constantly exposed to microbial diversity. They played in dirt. They ate unwashed food. They were raised alongside animals. They were sick more often with acute infections, but their microbiomes were not repeatedly stripped and rebuilt. They were allowed to develop slowly, naturally, and with extraordinary diversity. There is one more piece of this puzzle that almost never gets discussed: stress. Chronic stress is one of the most potent destroyers of gut microbiome diversity known to science. The gut-brain axis runs in both directions. Just as the gut communicates with the brain communicates with the gut. When the body is under chronic stress, it alters gut motility, increases intestinal permeability, and changes the composition of the microbiome directly. Stress bacteria thrive, beneficial bacteria decline. Ancient humans experienced acute stress, the kind that spikes and resolves. A predator, a hunt, a storm. The body activates, responds, and returns to baseline. Modern humans experience chronic stress, the kind that never fully resolves. Financial pressure, social anxiety, work deadlines, notifications. The body stays activated. The gut pays the price. This is not speculation. Researchers studying populations in remote areas with limited access to modern technology consistently find lower rates of inflammatory gut conditions, lower cortisol baselines, and more diverse microbiomes than their urban counterparts. The difference is not entirely diet. It is the nervous system. It is a body that is allowed to rest. So was ancient gut health better? The evidence says yes. More diverse microbiomes, more fiber, more microbial exposure, less chronic stress, less antibiotic disruption. Ancient guts were not perfect. Ancient humans died of parasites, food poisoning, and infections that a single modern pill could cure. They were not healthier overall, but their microbiomes were richer, more diverse, and more resilient than ours in ways that science is only now beginning to fully understand. The gut you were born with was designed for a world of fiber, dirt, fermented food, and microbial richness. The world you actually live in looks almost nothing like that. And the gap between those two worlds is showing up as bloating, inflammation, anxiety, autoimmune disease, and 100 other modern conditions that ancient humans simply did not have words for, because they did not need them. The human gut has not changed. The world it has to operate in has changed beyond recognition, and somewhere in that gap is the explanation for why so many people feel so chronically unwell in one of the healthiest eras in human history. If you want to know more about the fascinating history of human health, subscribe to the Health Archive. Every video is another piece of the